يلا حيه.
هلا وغلا.
مساك الله بالخير.
مسيك بالنور والعافيه. مرحبا يا راشد، شلونك ابو تامر؟
عساك طيب.
عساك طيب، شلون منعز عليك؟ يا مرحبا بك.
الشعب المبارك اللي جمعنا معك.
بارك في حياتك ويرحم والديك ويجزاك خير. يا مرحبا بك عزيز وغالي.
حد معانا ولا احنا ما اجتمعوا الشباب؟
والله كنا كلنا اونلاين، بعدين ما ادري ايش حصل، طلعنا وبعدين شفت وجهك السمح، فهذه الفرصه الطيبه اللي شفناك.
الشعب المبارك طال عمرك. على الخاطر والله تصدق اني مسبق اكلمك بس اسلم عليك.
عزيز وغالي، الحق لك يا ابو تامر، الحق لك.
لا ما بيننا حقوق.
الله يرحم والديك ويطول عمرك.
ما حد من الجماعه موجود.
والله كانوا موجودين.
لا خلاص شبكه ثانيه غيرنا.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام.
السيدات والسادة الكرام، مساء الخير. يسعدني أن أرحب بكم في ندوة التنمية المستدامة في قطر، التي نظمها بنك الدوحة عبر الإنترنت، والتي سوف تتناول عددا من الموضوعات الجوهرية التي تتعلق بتداعيات جائحة فيروس كورونا والجهود التي تتبناها الحكومة القطرية على المستوى الاقتصادي لإنعاش قطاع الأعمال. وسوف نتناول هذه الجهود والتدابير بمزيد من التفصيل مع السادة المتحدثين الأفاضل الذين يشرفوننا في هذه الندوة: السيد عبد العزيز بن ناصر آل خليفة، الرئيس التنفيذي لبنك قطر للتنمية; السيد راشد المنصوري، الرئيس التنفيذي لبورصة قطر; الشيخ العنود بن حمد آل ثاني، المدير التنفيذي لتنمية الأعمال في مركز قطر للمال; الشيخ الدكتور محمد بن حمد آل ثاني، مدير إدارة الصحة العامة بوزارة الصحة. والآن مع كلمة الدكتور سيتا رامان، الرئيس التنفيذي لبنك الدوحة. Good evening, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Sustainable Development in Qatar webinar, which is organized by Doha Bank. In this webinar, we will discuss essential topics concerning the current pandemic and the economic-related efforts adopted by the Qatari government to revive the business sector. We are going to further elaborate on these efforts and measures with our distinguished speakers: Mr. Abdulaziz bin Nasser Al Khalifa, Chief Executive Officer, Qatar Development Bank; Mr. Rashid Al Mansouri, Chief Executive Officer, Qatar Stock Exchange; Sheikh Al Anoud Al Thani, Managing Director of Business Development, Qatar Financial Center; Sheikh Dr. Mohammed bin Hamad Al Thani, Director of Public Health, Ministry of Public Health. We will now hand over to Dr. Sita Raman, Doha Bank CEO, to deliver the concept note.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, fellow speakers, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure and privilege to be an integral part of this very important session, Sustainable Development in Qatar. The world has changed. The world is changing on account of this COVID pandemic crisis. Human tragedy has been exhibited in multiple form and substance. Extraordinary transformation in terms of personal lifestyle and professional makeup. We are all recognizing the importance of humanity. There's an Oriental saying: if you aim at short term, you cultivate flowers. If you aim at medium term, you cultivate trees. If you aim at long term, you build humanity, eternity. And that's what the focus now. We live in an interconnected, interdependent world. More than ever, we recognize the importance of making sure human prosperity comes into place. Not only we have to create a better world, better citizenship to the world is the need of the hour. The world is in transition. Extraordinary transformation. We lost nearly 450,000 human beings. we have still 8.2 million people are infected. Every country in the world is going through this pandemic. It has defied territorial integrity, caste, creed, race, borders in every substance. We truly reflecting a new world order. Financial crisis in 2009 was a result of liquidity. Liquidity crisis moved into a funding crisis, funding moved into a solvency and sovereign issue. After 1930 depression, financial crisis was jolting the world that was confined to only financial sector. Developed world, advanced economies, developing world, emerging markets were all truly reflecting the character of solvency and liquidity in the financial sector. The hot money was printed and it transcended borders. Liquidity crisis was put to rest, essentially by a process called quantitative easing. G7 has become G8, G8 become G20. Let's understand, the financial crisis was emanating from advanced economies. Emerging markets were scoring high. Today, nobody is spared. Last October in the International Monetary Fund, we had a pronouncement of 3.6% global growth. In January, it was revised by International Monetary Fund in Davos to 3%. Downward risk was more. Essentially, we have recognized we have to understand the trade or investment banking conflicts globally. We have to reconcile to the fact the world is going to grow not more than 3%. In April, when International Monetary Fund announced the growth as negative after the pronouncement of pandemic to 3.8%. That's a contraction. Advanced economies were grossly underperforming to the tune of 6.1%. That's the forecast. When it comes to developing economies, again a contraction of 1.1%. So it is a great recession, as they call it. It was in April. Subsequently, when it comes to analytical risk, the downward risks were enlarging, and world at large as recognized. World Bank came with another report of 6.2%. Yesterday, OECD has said it is going to be 7.6% contraction. In the midst, we are in transition. The human development, economic development, environment development, social development are all getting reorganized in a new transformational leadership. A transformation in every form and substance. That's the need of the hour. How do we make sure we eliminate extreme poverty? How do we ensure food security? How do we ensure we have education for all? How do we make sure zero hunger comes in? How do we ensure hygiene is taken care, health care for all? How do we make sure we create sustainable economies? In today's context, Qatar is going through this transition as well. We all know Qatar is a country of great substance and substantive compliance. We also know the political, social, and economic progression has been a telling story for the world to recognize this wise governance. We have gone through extraordinary set of changes and challenges. In 2008 and 9, public-private partnership in terms of financial sector was pronounced. We managed to ensure financial stability was rightly recognized. When we had the blockade in 2017 June, we have realized self-reliance is ultimate. Plan A to Plan B was moved in. And today's context, again, yet another wise governance made sure our healthcare systems is second to none. At this point, we have to thank the paramedics, doctors, nurses, who are all engaged in making sure human life is more important. And they have given the same kind of commitment Qatar scorecard in terms of healthcare is an exhibition for us to see through. Over 300,000 cases have been tested. 82,000 was tested positive. 60,000 was recovered, 22,000 still under observation. The mortality rate is just 80. That says it all. Qatar's infrastructure support in terms of healthcare has been very well showcased. And we also have to recognize the economic governance in terms of enforcing liquidity, ensuring financial stability, ensuring social distancing and hygiene are all converging to make sure this transition is recognized and we administer to larger advantage of humanity. That's a country of great eminence, and that's what precisely we are going through. In this context, it's important. I showcase some of the clips. I have got very enlightened audience and again, elite panel to showcase multiple sectoral exhibitions and how Qatar government directives and the Qatar Central Bank initiatives has been reflecting in ensuring liquidity and making sure debt servicing is managed. Fiscal and monetary prudence comes in to see we have the crisis converted into a transitory phase. We make sure our financial stability in long term comes to top. Let me showcase some of the videos, which is worth exhibiting to start with in global terms. Then I'll show a few clips in the next 7 minutes. Let me pause it on. I think it's important that we recognize the global economies, which I mentioned.
In January, the World Bank forecast 2.5% growth for the global economy in 2020. Then, the COVID-19 pandemic swept the world. On Monday, the World Bank released its revised outlook for 2020, forecasting the global economy to shrink 5.2%. According to the World Bank, the current crisis is the deepest global recession since World War II and almost 3 times as bad as the 2009 global recession. Also, more advanced economies are projected to shrink by 7% due to widespread of social distancing measures, a sharp tightening of financial conditions, and a huge decline in exports. This includes China, where the COVID-19 outbreak originated. It's projected to see a 1% growth this year, the lowest growth it has registered in more than 4 decades. However, the World Bank's forecast was made under the assumption that the pandemic recedes by mid-year and negative global spillovers ease during the second half of the year.
So that was World Bank. Now let's look at OECD. So clearly, the biggest message in substance. We recognize the biggest discovery of this century is to recognize human beings can alter their attitude and alter their lives. That's what precisely we are going through in the last 3 months. Now, fiscal and monetary measures have been taken. Trillions of dollars have been pumped in. Let's start with the United States Federal Reserve.
The U.S. Federal Reserve has kept interest rates unchanged at 0 to 0.25% and said it would keep interest rates near zero through 2022. It also projected the U.S. economy would shrink by 6.5% this year, but bounce back with a 5% gain in 2021.
We're not thinking about raising rates. We're not even thinking about raising rates. So what we're thinking about is providing support for this economy. We do think this is going to take some time.
That's a big message. There's no change in the interest rate policy. The monetary policy, interest rate, inflation, liquidity are all now standstill. How do we evolve momentum in terms of growth? That's the question. How do we ensure we put back the jobs in place? We ensure we create more financial stability. This is what exactly every country, every continent is engaged in. Similar response has been showcased in ECB as well. Is there in terms of the financial markets. The financial markets are highly volatile. Financial markets have become gambling grounds. Stocks, currencies, commodities, properties are all under fluctuations. Value is uncertain. The diminution is certain. And that's what we are seeing in terms of the Great Recession. It's a contraction in terms of the economy, diminution in the world in total substance. It means world is deleveraging. We have to change with the overall change. And that's what the reflection. Look at oil price. It nosedived even to contraction, but it has come back. In today's context, the oil price shows some semblance of stability. The Brent is quoting at $40. When it comes to US crude, it is $37. Our budgets are differentiated. We have a possibility of current account as well as fiscal deficit. Because the economy is going through contraction, we need to make sure we rationalize then and there. This is the movement in the oil price. When it comes to Brent and WTI, the regional scenarios, when it comes to hydrocarbon, 45% of the world oil, 20-25% of the world gas comes from this region. We have to necessarily recognize our financial stability is second to none. Qatar as a country. Our external reserves, our internal reserves, vis-a-vis the GDP is solid. We have twice of the GDP. In spite of the contraction, which we foresee 4.5% in terms of economic momentum, we have to recognize we have reserves, both in terms of sovereigns as well as central bank liquidity and stability. We have twice of the GDP as reserves. We can't pay the import bills under any circumstances. And we are a commodity-driven economy. Our long-term supply chain will give a sustainable economic momentum. clearly, the negative growth is clear in non-oil GDP as well as the GDP in total terms. Hydrocarbon has been a source of support for the region and Qatar in specific terms. We have taken right initiatives. Qatar borrowed money in the international market in 1998 and then transformed these resources to their advantage so that the economic stability is visible today. A single decision to recognize LNG is going to be the futuristic, energy efficient, environment friendly commodity has been a resounding vision, and that has transformed everything. That has made our financial stability solid. In today's context, world over, energy mix is changing, and LNG is here to stay. Meanwhile, the central bank, Qatar Central Bank, has taken enormous measures. Let me showcase some of the important measures in terms of social distancing, transaction-based processing to digital advantage, and ensuring liquidity comes in. National guarantee programs comes in to ensure small and medium-sized entrepreneurs or affected sectors are fully supported. And that's the kind of alignment between monetary policy and fiscal policy is very much there. Let's watch it. So, Qatar central bank reforms are quite meaningful, and my colleagues across, they're going to explain to you what is all about in terms of financial markets. We also have to see the hydrocarbon, some of the decisions which we have taken to scale it up from 77 million metric ton to 110 million metric ton by 2025 is definitely there. And again, after 110, once we accomplish by 2027, we'll have 127 million metric ton. Here is the addiction. The credit creation is happening and hydrocarbon market is growing. Support the transmission.
Qatar Petroleum has signed shipbuilding agreements with South Korea's big three shipyards to buy more than 100 ships in a deal worth more than $19 billion. It's the largest LNG ship contract in history. Sources say that three South Korean companies, Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering, Hyundai Heavy Industries and Samsung Heavy Industries will construct around 40 ships each by 2027.
This is what the finance.
But as I mentioned, regarding the North Field, we are full steam ahead. As we have mentioned in the past, We're going to be awarding all our contracts for Northfield expansion project. We have two phases, the east and the south expansion. We're going to go from 77 million tons per annum to 110 million tons per annum by 2025, and then up from 110 to 126 by the year 2027. We've ordered all the shipping requirements, and we've booked slots for about $20 billion we've announced just a couple of weeks ago, and that's at a cost of around $20 billion US, and we've booked up 60% of the entire world's capacity of building LNG ships. So these, we call them our moving pipelines, if you will, but that's to have our full supply chain up and ready by the time we have all the developments in place.
Qatar's built-in public-private partnership model that was pronounced by His Highness Emir, and also Qatar went into international market, borrowed 10 billion. Originally, we were seeking for 5 billion. It was oversubscribed nearly 5 times. Now, recognition of the fact, we got it a 5-year note, debt paper, for US Treasury plus 300 basis points, 10-year note for US Treasury for 305 basis point, and a 30-year long term we could procure for 4.4%. That's clearly a testament for us to realize Qatar's financial stability is known to global investors. That story goes on. So this is what I call it as sustainability in real orders. Our concern is today is to make sure we sustain our meritocracy. With me to enlighten, there are distinguished panels who are going to showcase their perspective in this challenging and changing dynamics. Let me call upon the first speaker. I gave you the concept note. To elucidate further, there are 4 distinguished speakers to start with. The first speaker is going to be Mr. Abdulaziz Nasser Al Khalifa, CEO, Qatar Development Bank. Over to Mr. Abdulaziz.
Thank you, Dr. Sitaraman. I'm really happy and glad to be with you today and other distinguished guests. Let me start by thanking you for always finding a way to gather us around and to discuss important matters. Doha Bank team have done an amazing job again. I believe last year, I couldn't make it last year, but every year you're doing a gathering on such, bringing distinguished guests to discuss such matters. From Qatar Development Bank perspective, we're very thrilled to be able to help and support the private sector and small and medium enterprises in particular. As you know, and we've been working hand in hand with the government and the private sector to ensure that they gain access to the required services. And in such terms, Qatar Development Bank and the Qatari private sector, SMEs, have been through challenges before, and we've grown stronger. The blockade being one of them. When the blockade happened back in 2017, Qatar Development Bank have created a situation room at that time. And during that time, we worked on ensuring that small and medium enterprises and entrepreneurs and private sector gain access to information, gain access to funding, gain access to new markets to be able to sell their products and services. Now, I wouldn't say that we are prepared for this pandemic, but that situation have prepared us in a way or another to be able to cater for such situations. And in Qatar Development Bank, that same situation room has been reestablished when this pandemic have hit us. And we started immediately working with the private sector, with small and medium enterprises, with the entrepreneurs, to understand how can we help. And we focused initially on healthcare products, producing the masks, the gowns, the gloves, the hand sanitizers from local producers or local manufacturers. And we started by preparing them to enhance their capacity, being more lean, finding raw material for them globally and trying to secure their supply chain, which we have been successful to do when we have 3 factories who have started operation during the pandemic phase, and now they're actually supplying the local market from face masks and hand sanitizers. From that concept, or from that note, we also went into providing a lot of advisory support. And you've mentioned a lot of statistics in your presentation, and I wouldn't dwell more and bring other statistics from other places. I think you've mentioned enough, but this is an unprecedented situation, and nothing would prepare us for such situation, and nothing would tell us what would happen the following day. So we've been very responsive to the situation in terms of support. We focused, as I've mentioned, on providing the SMEs and startups with the required raw material and raw material financing, the required support in terms of human capital. And our entrepreneurs, our SMEs are very smart. They found ways on how to build on each other's strengths and find ways on how to fill the gaps. So companies that are actually had to, they couldn't, their labor force couldn't work, have lended that labor force to companies that could actually work. So they've been filling each other gaps. At the same time, at Qatar Development Bank, we provided a lot of training. Every week, we have 4 to 5 virtual sessions where we would work with the entrepreneurs, with SMEs, where our capable team and also utilizing international know-how would support the entrepreneurs and the SMEs by providing them with the best practices in terms of managing their team, best practices in terms of managing their supply chain, best practices in terms of being more lean. And currently, we're in the phase of helping them to move digital as much as possible. Working with the Ministry of Transportation and Communication to ensure that there is a smooth transition into digitalization of our small and medium enterprises. So working with SMEs has been the core function of QDB. One of the issues that private sector have faced is the liquidity crunch due to this demand gap or demand void that have occurred because of this pandemic. So the National Guarantee Rescue Scheme, which Doha Bank is a partner at, was actually ordered by the Prime Minister as part of the overall or the overarching economic stimulus package that was requested by or ordered by His Highness the Emir. And that 3 billion has been mobilized to support private sector and SMEs to be able to cater for their requirement when it comes to the working capital, mainly salaries and rent. And that program have been launched in a very fast manner, in a soft, in a smooth way. And partner banks, yourself included, and other banks, and the central bank have played an amazing role in ensuring that SMEs are gaining access to the required cash that they need. At Qatar Development Bank, we've been working hand in hand with SMEs to ensure that the ecosystem is well developed also to support them. At such times, we need to move digital. And QDB, last year, we've moved into creating a digital QDB. So all of our services are available online. And that also have helped us to cater more and serve more the small and medium enterprises. Qatar as a nation, when it comes to entrepreneurship and SME and small and medium enterprises, last year we've been ranked the best regionally and the 3rd globally when it comes to Global Entrepreneurship Monitor as the best entrepreneurship context country. So we've helped and developed a great ecosystem for entrepreneurship and small and medium enterprises. We've ensured that small and medium enterprises are gaining access to information and training, are gaining information to funding when it's required, and the National Guarantee Scheme is one of them, are gaining access to markets locally. For example, last year we've managed to matchmake the local companies with the local demand by almost 2.4 billion Qatari riyals. And internationally, through our Qatar Export Development Agency, we've managed to help more than 350 companies to export and finding deals internationally. At the same time, 2019 have witnessed a lot of companies that are coming online when it comes to food security and health security. Last year, if my memory serves me right, I think there was a growth of 65% in terms of food security companies that have received funding from Qatar Development Bank. So all in all, we're working hand in hand with the private sector. We're working hand in hand with Central Bank, Ministry of Finance, the government, to ensure that the SMEs are resilient, are receiving the proper funding, are receiving the proper training, and are capable to go through this phase. We believe that this is a three-phase type of situation. We will go through the survive phase, and there will be a revive phase that we believe we're just embarking into, and there will be a thrive phase for companies and small and medium enterprises who are more digitally enabled. And this is why we're very focused on providing our SMEs with digital tools to make sure that they're capable to compete locally and internationally. Back to you, Doctor.
I think, thank you, Mr. Abdulaziz. You summed it up very well. It is disaster recovery to business continuity. That's what exactly is going to be the roadmap. And phase one you mentioned as such. How is the response from the partner banks, all the commercial banks and Islamic banks taking a joint risk participation with 3 billion allocated to Qatar Development Bank? How is it going, and how the response has been in total terms?
I think, Doctor, you're used to me being frank, and their response is good, but we're always dependent on you guys to do a better job. I think you're overwhelmed. Everyone is overwhelmed. Everyone is also going through cost rationalization. So there are different forces from client perspective, from internal organization, management perspective, with all the partner banks, pressure from the clients who are in need for support. So we've been balancing between clients' requirement and banks' requirement. I believe that our program is ranked among the best. We just recently also, there was a report by the IMF, and their recommendation was exactly the program that Qatar Development Bank with the Qatari government and the partner banks is doing as the best model to support the private sector, which is a great testimony to our program. It's not an easy way on how to handle the situation. There is no silver bullet to this. This is all a situation on how and when demand will pick up again. The Qatari government have done an amazing job in handling the situation from all aspects, and I think you wouldn't see a clearer plan from different governments like the one that just also recently was published by the government with the different 4 phases and exact dates on what will happen on each day. So this is a chapeau to the team who's also running the situation. We have one of the champions with us actually on this call, Dr. Muhammad. He's a dear friend and a great individual who's doing a great job with his colleagues. And this is a great testimony of how well planned and well prepared this is. From a health perspective, from administration perspective, and also from economic perspective. Ministry of Trade and Industry, the Central Bank and Ministry of Finance have been working hand in hand to ensure that there is a stimulus package available. The repo window that the Central Bank have helped the banks to ensure that there is enough, there is liquidity to support them. The National Guarantee Rescue Program, Qatar Development Bank have gave a 6 months grace period with no interest, no profit, and no serving the principals for all the clients. Our portfolio of 7 billion riyal is totally supported also in that area. Our Dhameen program, partial guarantee scheme, is also supported. So I believe it's a collaborative effort. Everyone is working to ensure that they could go through this phase of survivability. But at the same time, we shouldn't only focus on this. Yes, this should take the majority of our focus, but there is a revive and a thrive phase that we should go to. And we believe that Qatar have always grown stronger from issues. And the blockade is a great testimony of how we have grown bigger and we have grown better and stronger. And I'm also, I have a big and firm belief that this will make our small and medium enterprises or private sector even stronger, because you could see that a lot of them are moving digitally faster. So this is actually working as an accelerator factor to help them to accelerate their services online, to help them to understand how international benchmarks are actually working. I wouldn't also sit here and pretend that there is no challenges globally. You know that there is almost a deglobalization effort that's happening. Everyone is moving internally, and there is this nationalization of supply chain that's happening globally. That creates also some sort of a limiting factor. But alhamdulillah, our economy is doing very well. There are also projects happening locally, and Qatar as a hub. And I believe our dear friend and colleague, Sheikh Al-Anud, also is with us in the call. She's going to speak about that. But using Qatar as a hub to provide services regionally have been proven also beneficial. And the services and the ease of doing business in Qatar, I think we were ranked among the top 20 globally in terms of reforms when it comes to ease of doing businesses.
Yes.
So there are a lot of moving pieces. And we are doing, and when I say we, I don't mean QDB only. I mean everyone within the context of the government and the quasi-government organizations are doing everything they can to ensure that small and medium enterprises and SMEs and private sector and entrepreneurs and the Q companies, the big companies, are capable to survive this and thrive post the COVID-19 situation.
You said it very well. See, Qatar's government, the way the crisis has been handled, there's no complete lockdown. Again, when it comes to reopening, it goes on phases. As I mentioned in the beginning of my review, the very structured way of managing healthcare, and the result is there in terms of the overall healthcare initiatives. And we are also seeing in terms of finance, we have financial stability, we have liquidity was fully supported by central bank. Now, you mentioned a very important point on the digital side, the transformation as such. You said digital consultancy is being offered. That's the way to go. The transformation is happening. Even at the banking side, we have seen transaction-based processing are all getting into electronic medium now. More of digital evolution is coming up. And from your perspective, I think QDB is in the centerpiece, creating a sandbox for fintech. Where does it stand? How is it coming up?
Of course, at Qatar Development Bank, we don't work alone when it comes to this arena. And it's not, I will touch upon the fintech area, but I would like also to mention that 2 years ago, we started our sport technology acceleration and incubation program. It's with the same concept on how to move, how to bring technology from abroad and localize technology and open door for entrepreneurs to build on Qatar's strength when it comes to sport. The same concept was applied to fintech. We have a strong financial sector in Qatar. The central bank have been very cooperative and leading when it comes to creating a fintech hub in Qatar. I've been privileged enough to be tasked by His Excellency the Governor to head this task force. That resulted in launching our fintech hub, financial technology hub, and the central bank is supervising and ensuring that the sandbox is up and running, while we handle with our colleagues from Qatar Financial Center the business side of helping the entrepreneurs and startups and SMEs to gain access to the required support that they need in order for them to exist and flourish. This COVID-19 have worked as an acceleration factor for all of these initiatives. And central bank have been the central piece when it comes to ensuring that everything is working together and gelling together. Big thanks to His Excellency the Governor for his belief in small and medium enterprises, his belief in technology. His Excellency the Deputy Governor has been also a driving force to ensure that the banks are doing what they can to support, and also that QDB, as he is also the Deputy Chairman at Qatar Development Bank, to support QDB in making sure that this fintech hub is actually a reality.
Interesting evolution. You enlightened in true terms, Mr. Abdulaziz. Thank you for your participation. And a lot of questions have come for you online real time, but we have to restrict on account of time. I'll pass on the rest of the questions to you. Now, the next distinguished speaker is my dear great friend and the CEO of Qatar Exchange, Mr. Rashid Al Mansouri. A very distinguished performer in terms of Qatar Exchange. He transformed Qatar Exchange over the years. Let me have the pleasure of listening along with you. Over to Mr. Rashid Al Mansouri, CEO of Qatar Exchange. Mute. It is mute. No. Don't jump until the we have an issue on the, it is still muted. Technology side, still muted.
I think, what
Yes.
about now? Hear me?
Yes.
Okay, technology. Always.
Yes.
Thank you. So do I repeat what I said? Okay. First of all,
Yes.
thank you. And thanks to Abdulaziz for also his support and his team support, of course, and all government working, you know, to support the SMEs and business in Qatar through this unprecedented situation of COVID-19. As maybe I said, I've been always asked, I mean, what Qatar Stock Exchange is doing with venture market and SMEs. I asked question back to them. I said, why SMEs seek to list in the market? The question is for finance. I think QDB is doing a great job now. And that was my answer, because really are supporting all sides, or from startup to SMEs. So we thank them for that. And they are creating the future companies for Qatar Stock Exchange to be listed. Going back to Qatar Stock Exchange through this pandemic, you know, as we started this year, 2020, January was a great month for us, and there was a positive look from the international investor and optimistic look of the global economy, till we hit by, you know, COVID-19 and also by the oil prices. In the beginning of the year, you know, the Qatar Stock Exchange index was hiking, and there was a very positive result from our listed company, especially the financial sector. When, of course, we are always, you know, prepared for such situation, Qatar Stock Exchange, and we've been always, you know, exercising for such to make sure that we are resilient and there's continuity and stability of the stock market. We run exercises every year, like 3 or 4 times, from remote location, where our at some time we also simulate there is a pandemic in the building itself, so everybody leaves and, you know, they work from different location, whether from home or from, you know, DR side. And this come to place this year, you know, when really it happened. Qatar Stock Exchange worked through a strategy with 4 pillars. Number 1 is we raise for capital, attract international investment. 2, change or enhance the regulation, working with our regulators. 3, promote our market. And 4, increase our offering. That include listing, product, tools for investors. Of course, like any other market, there was a challenges, and of course, a few things how we had to change our course to make sure that business continue and our investor have access to our market. And number 1, also to make sure that our staff are safe with their family and our community in large. With the start of the pandemic and, you know, following the rules of the authorities, we sent 80% of our staff home, And at some time, we work only 5% on Qatar Stock Exchange because, you know, we are fully automated and digitalized, you know, since we implemented the new systems. And few things being affected, but also with crisis, there's some opportunities. So we stopped, you know, our plan to, you know, travel or do road shows or external promotion. Local event was stopped. Education program was stopped. But of course, we try to find the alternative. One of the alternatives like what we are using right now, which is the video conference technology. So maybe, Doctor, you mentioned you saw some of our events, and they're still running. Some of them are educational program for our, you know, for local investor or even international. That has two models, which is like fundamental analysis and technical analysis. And there's some panels that we host some expert people and international institutions like MSCI and others. That's our, you know, continue and creating the, what we noticed, of course, during this pandemic is, you know, if you look to the latest result of, you know, whether in the region or, you know, globally, you will find Qatar Stock Exchange one of the best performing exchange, even during this crisis, during the, you know, the pandemic, during the fall in oil prices, we still, you know, the best performing stock exchange in the region. And also, if you notice the trading, it's one of the, for us as a stock exchange, it's better even than last year. The end, like maybe in the end of May, we have like 318 million per day, where last year it was less than 300 million. And the liquidity was good, thanks to the government also for 10 billion, which also gave a good sentiment to our investor. And you know, also, you know, we as part of international indices like MSCI, S&P, and FTSE, our investors have a good confidence, and it's coming from the belief and the confidence of the investor in Qatar economy as a whole, and that's what the support. That's what's supporting our you know, market. And I will borrow what Saad Kaabi said. We are full speed ahead, and we are looking forward to, you know, this goes away and we are back to normal. Of course, still we have a good news for this year. So we are looking in September to IPO one of the local companies, with about 2 billion capital, which is good. It will be, you know, open for local and international investors. We had planned two, but at least now we'll have one coming up. We are working with, of course, also some issuer or REITs and gold ETF, and so this we are going ahead with our plans. What affected is what, as I said in the beginning, like maybe the promotion trips or road shows or some local events. Yes, Doctor, back to you.
You summed it up well. Now the question is, you got 10 billion allocation by the government. His Highness has given you a substantial amount to Qatar Exchange to boost the market momentum. Where do you see the destination? How it's going to be diverted in terms of augmenting the momentum in the stock market? What are your plans? How this 10 billion will be allocated? Where all it will be channelized? What are the plans?
Okay, and to be honest, the plan is really, you know, thank the government for, you know, supporting the stock market with this 10 billion. But actually, what we are looking is for a sustainable stock market, and that we can do it by, you know, what we offer to the market. You know, to be, you know, honest with you, what we are missing in Qatar Stock Exchange, which is the second largest stock market in the region, is the primary market is not active as it should be, and that what will make a sustainable market with higher liquidity and, you know, course, we will still need government support sometime, but I think if we have very active primary market, more listing, 4 to 6 listing a year, I'll be happy even if I have 2 a year. If you remember, Dr. Sutterman, when we listed, for example, Saad 5 years ago, and when we get upgraded to emerging market, our average daily turnover exceeded 860 million and many days of 1 billion plus. That year, the index closed at record high. I still remember that the number. It's 12,640, something like this. 12,640. That's what we want. We want a mega company like Saad and like others. We would like to have a privatization program. We need a family-owned company, to have to have a program for their coming to the market. They're still shy. They are still don't want to come, especially a family-owned company. And we need family company from the industry area. There's more than 90% of hydrocarbon business is with the family-owned company. There's many industry, And also we'd like to see programs to support some industry in Qatar, especially in this time. When the blockade happened, everybody rushed to support food industry, farmers, etc. Now, at this situation, we've seen a lot of Qataris, pharmaceutical, coming to the industry, but they want to. I would like to see a city of, medicine, manufacturing, and small factories. We saw they are producing so much this year, coming up. So we'll ask Abdul Aziz, since he's with us, to really keep an eye on those pharmaceutical industries and support them as much as they can. And even advise, I can see they will have a very good companies like Q Pharma and Q Life. Those are 2 things. I even advise them to come together. Okay, I will say it. I'm no secret. I tell them to come together and make one big company. And we should look to that. The authorities and the government should look to these people and bring them together and give them program. Hamad Corporation should also give them a support, the expertise and also the purchase from them. Okay, why we purchase from outside and we have our own industry here? We need to give them support as much as we give to the farmer, both sides, the farmers and the pharmaceutical industries.
Interesting. Now, where do you see the index? Now, you are right. Arguably, our market is still the best performing market within the downward trend. We are still down by 12% or so, while the GCC average is around 20% now. So, where do you see the market to grow from here to the year end?
Dr. Sitman, if you remember last year, our index was the best. And sometimes you get worried when your index goes 21% in 1 year, which what happened last year, remember? And that will make it challenge. You will not always make 20% every year, okay? Or and what I see, I'm positive. I look to the future brightly, I think now with this listing coming in September, hopefully, or the IPO will be in September, inshallah, if things go as planned. I think I look at positively. If I look to the company and their performance, I still look positively to it. So I think we will, hold our base and go higher. As you mentioned, some stock exchanges in the region, minus 20 or so. But if you look to the index today, even we are minus 12, but we're still in the top. We are the best. So we will stay there.
Yeah. So you think by multiple collaboration, you can bring up the market? Are you working on various collaboration with various global stock exchange? You yourself is a member of World Federation of Exchanges. So what is your plan, briefly?
This year we had an ambitious plan, to penetrate Asia. So we had planned to visit China, and we had an MOU to sign with some exchanges there, 2 exchanges, and also Singapore. Unfortunately, our trip in March was cancelled. If we look to the investment coming from Asia, it's almost only like 1% or so. You cannot compare it like what's coming from Europe or from USA or from other region. So we had a plan to go there and to make sure that we promote our market and tell Qatar story and Qatar stock market story and how and about the company and their success, the success of our company and the 2 ETFs, which is you are part of it. Okay, I mean I still think you should also participate on the promotion of the ETF. Okay, we need Doha Bank to do more. But thank you for working with us to bring that ETF to life. So I'm still want to go back to Asia this year. I was there last year, and we found out that people still don't know much about this region. Okay, and also some ease of capital movement now in China that make it an opportunity for us to go and speak about the opportunity in Qatar stock market. So that's what I see from the future.
Correct. Thank you, Rashid. I think it's a good explanation. Overall, if you look at it, our economic fundamentals are strong, but it doesn't reflect in market price. If you look at the price earning or price to book value, we are grossly undervalued. And definitely with all these initiatives, a long-term solution is there. I'm sure once we go through the transitory phase, your reforms and the convergence in terms of your technology and with the global collaboration which you are envisaging, Qatar Stock Exchange will be a good place to invest. And let me thank you once again, Mr. Rashid Mansouri, the CEO of Qatar Exchange. Let me move on to the next speaker. Women participation in governance is always a substance of Qatar's advocacy for gender equality. And here is Sheikha Al-Anud Al-Thani, the Managing Director of Qatar Financial Center. She's a wonderful person and a well-distinguished, well-educated economist and doing a good job in promoting Qatar Financial Center. Let's see what she has to say in terms of overall current transitory phase and how Qatar Financial Center is adding value. Sheikha Al-Anud, over to you.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you to the Doha Bank for organizing and hosting this session. I'm delighted to be here and especially pleased to be with you all and all the distinguished speakers as well. And a very good evening to everyone joining us virtually. If we look at the current economic situation and compare it with previous crises, it differs substantially. Although the sharp nominal contraction we are experiencing mirrors that of the 2014-2015 when oil prices dipped, this crisis is really different in numerous ways. Firstly, today's situation started as a public health and humanitarian crisis that spread globally thanks to our interconnectivity. Secondly, the public health response translated into a forced shutdown of many economic activities, if not all, in certain parts of the world. And thirdly, while we may have reached the peak in cases, the situation is really not over. We must adapt and learn to live with COVID until a vaccine is widely available. Now, coupled with the decline in commodity prices, COVID has had significant impact on the global economy with a substantial contraction of GDP expected for 2020 and a potentially worsening situation later in the year. We must keep a close eye also on the developments that are happening in the United States when the current stimulus expires in July and the potential of a second COVID wave. We can see a resurgence of COVID in Beijing and China and other parts of the world, and we really need to pay a close look at that. Forecasts on the extent of impact on Qatar specifically and its GDP in 2020 also differ significantly. However, it is expected that Qatar's economy will rebound strongly in 2021. The recent positive IMF projections as well for Qatar are due in part to the economic durability that previous speakers have mentioned that were already tested throughout the blockade, which in my opinion was a critical dry run for handling COVID. If we look at the sector level of Qatar's key non-hydrocarbon sectors, they have all been impacted in a variation of manners. Let's take construction, for example. It was impacted by capacity constraints as a result of workplace restrictions. And while national projects are still ongoing, Development pace has undoubtedly slowed down, and this is understandable. Banks are well capitalized and are playing an important role, or a key role, in delivering the government's national response program. However, they have been also forced to rapidly digitize their business models and adapt to remote working models. Manufacturing, as another example, has faced a triple challenge of subdued demand, capacity restrictions, and supply chain disruption. One anomaly is medical equipment manufacturing, however, which has responded very well to immediate requirements. Some notable examples of this are the new factories producing 8 million masks per week and 2,000 ventilators, utilized for both local and international requirements. Trade also has significantly declined in footfall due to movement restrictions, but encouragingly, a significant proportion of companies have been quick to shift trade to digital and e-commerce platforms. Now, due to the government-mandated business shut-ins, activity in the second quarter of this year fell sharply, and the Purchasing Managers Index, or the PMI, fell from an average of 50 in the first quarter to 36.6 in May. The most immediate impact was on service sectors, including many professional services hosted on the Qatar Financial Center's platform, where person-to-person interaction are intricate to delivery. However, while most countries across the world and the GCC are experiencing challenging economic conditions, and Qatar here is no exception, we are well positioned to weather the storm. Several industries are thriving, and particularly those that facilitate transactions while minimizing human-to-human interactions. If we look at the back end of this, it starts with logistics and warehousing. For business and individual customers, there are numerous e-commerce platforms that have emerged or increased activity. On the front end, there is now a wide spectrum of different delivery services and fintech solutions. These new COVID-friendly businesses in Qatar are facilitated by the Qatar Financial Center and the Free Zone Authority's business platform and infrastructure. And especially lucky that these are ready to go and help businesses realize their commercial visions in almost real time. At the same time, we also continue to have substantial investment in health, education, and infrastructure by the Qatari government, supplemented by the private sector investments. The blockade has definitely provided us with the necessary preparation to shield our economy and had led to a series of initiatives aimed at enhancing our self-sufficiency. And a very good example of this is food security. Qatar today ranks first in the Middle East and 13th globally for food security, according to the Global Food Security Index. The blockade has also led us to elevate our cybersecurity infrastructure significantly. And on a similar note, COVID-19 has accelerated digitization of numerous services that will improve citizen to business to government interaction for decades to come. We have demonstrated as well as a country to our key export markets and the international economic community that Qatar is indeed a safe bet, dependable, stable, reliable, and committed to long-term relationships. And in the face of a looming global recession, Qatar is adequately equipped to navigate the challenges that lie ahead of us. Now, if we turn around to the role of governments in national responses, and as COVID unfolded, most governments and international institutions rapidly sought to develop and launch significant stimulus packages. And these packages are broad-based by design to ensure immediate liquidity support. Global stimulus packages initially focused on three key areas. To summarize: business support, supporting income, and monetary policy. And Qatar's government, led by the Supreme Committee for Crisis Management, was decisive in developing and launching the National Stimulus Package, which included measures such as providing guarantees on business debt, exempting customs duties for specific products, and relief on business operating expenses. And as the implications of COVID have persisted and information on the impact become more available, governments have also rapidly shifted towards more targeted stimulus measures, including areas such as targeted funding, digital platform and tooling, recovery support as some ideas. And we as the Qatar Financial Center are as well similarly committed to play our role as a financial hub, functioning as a gateway to attracting foreign investments into Qatar and promoting and achieving the nation's economic diversification strategy and supporting the private sector. Equally important is retaining investments in a time like this, addressing the concerns of firms and sustaining the wider business community amidst this crisis. And to that end, we recently announced new complementary measures to those provided by the government that are designed to offer relief to our firms, such as operating cost and taxation relief, registration and licensing fee waivers in some cases, and other indirect interventions. We have also strengthened our digitalization processes, ensuring that all our services, such as licensing, immigration, banking, and relocation support are fully automated. Now, with every crisis, there are opportunities, and the longer-term opportunities that can arise from a crisis like this are major industry shifts and supply chain disruptions. And in some sectors, revenues are expected to face near eradication in 2020. However, we are already seeing longer-term opportunities in sectors such as healthcare, technology, and areas broadly related to the ever-expanding digital economy. Governments are already looking at how to capture share in global supply chains. For example, from a policy perspective, countries such as Japan are incentivizing firms to reshore through dedicated funding and other support. And in addition to this, major national asset owners are increasing the acquisition of potentially strategic valuable assets in priority sectors. Qatar's resilience, experience, and favorable national financial position puts it in a very strong position to also seize longer-term opportunities. And in order to effectively capture those opportunities, we must witness close coordination between multiple state entities involved in policy formation and execution. So what does the future look like post-coronavirus for Qatar? Qatar undoubtedly is a member of the international community of nations, and we take pride in maintaining a positive contribution to the international system, grounded in a commitment to diplomacy, resolving conflict through dialogue, stability, and respect for nations' sovereignty. The post-COVID world will lead to a lot of questions regarding globalization's future. The fraying relationship between the United States and China, exacerbated even further by COVID-19, and disagreements over trade tariffs, set a precedent for potential deglobalization. Rising inequality in advanced economies may also worsen if a second wave of COVID should arrive, or if economic rebounds do not return to pre-COVID-19 levels. The combination of all of this, the technological advances, macroeconomics, and geopolitics, really create a melting pot of global uncertainty. So the decision-making processes here initiated amid the blockade have really prepared us for this. Internationally, we have expanded our relationships, committed to furthering our trade and economic ties, and are considered an integral country in the international order, politically and economically. We have managed to walk the tightrope of maintaining our sovereignty, expanding and diversifying our economy, forging a path to self-sufficiency, and maximizing our excellent relations with the vast majority of nations. Building upon this foundation and continuing this journey will guide us toward a stable, positive, post-COVID future, and ultimately light the way toward attaining and exceeding the goals laid out in the 2030 National Vision. Now, on a more practical level, and in terms of the local economy, and how Qatar's private sector will play a substantial role over the outlook period, as Qatar shifts to the next chapter of gradually opening its businesses in a safe manner, the emphasis will be on retaining what makes us strong, retaining our comparative advantages in finance and energy, holding steadfast in our diversification efforts, QFC and Free Zone Authority on the front lines here, and investing in our country's future by concentrating on human capital needs, which is a main pillar of the National Strategy 2030 as well. Qatar is a global leader in producing and exporting LNG and GTL, and it will continue to build on that strength and leadership position by developing upstream capacity with the North Field expansion project, along with more international partnerships. However, while Qatar works to supplement its comparative advantage in LNG and expand global LNG markets, we must also simultaneously commit ensuring its growing non-oil economy, that it remains efficient and increasingly internationally connected. Entrepreneurs here, small to medium-sized enterprises, and others will have their distinct roles to play as Qatar diversifies sustainably. And Qatar continues to create new opportunities for private sector growth and foreign direct investment through initiatives that are run by the government, such as the new PPP law, or through through the Qatar Financial Center and other platforms, such as the special economic zones that exist today and the free zones. And in the long term, more needs to be done. While the QFC offers an enabling environment with world-class legal, regulatory, tax, and business environments, international best practice must be adopted throughout the economy for us to achieve truly sustainable and diverse economic growth in the decades ahead. To summarize all my points, I think there are three main takeaways here: that resilience is essential, stimulus must be sustainable, and collaboration is key. Thank you. I don't know how to exit the presentation. Okay.
Questions which has come to me towards you is now answered in terms of COVID and post-COVID. And only one question briefly perhaps you can address before I pass on to Sheikh Mohammed. The phenomenal success Qatar Financial Center over the years, arguably one of the best financial centers in the region, and trying to climb in global terms. Very high standard in terms of supervision plus business advantage. Now, where do you see the Qatar Financial Center post-COVID assisting the various sectors post-COVID, assuming that we restore normalcy by January or February? What are your plans further to augment business momentum and improve the competitiveness of the country?
Well, that's a very good question, because as the Qatar Financial Center, we continue to play a major role in diversifying Qatar's economy by attracting key businesses across the main industries that we are targeting. And these are around financial services, digital, sports, and media, among all the other permitted activities, which are around 33. But by offering the stellar economic infrastructure that we have to the entities on our platform, we enable both Qatari and international firms to succeed both locally and in the region with our onshore capabilities. And as of today, we manage a business community of over 900 firms from all over the world across a variety of sectors, both in the financial and non-financial sectors. And this has created a community of thousands of people with a combined total assets under management of over $20 billion US. So we welcome firms' investment ranging from entrepreneurs in the digital space, as Mr. Abdulaziz mentioned earlier, through the accelerator programs and incubation platforms that we have co-launched as partners, but also in the sports-focused initiatives, all the way to the global corporate banks and niche asset managers. Recently, we have received approvals for 2 banks, Credit Agricole and a bank from Turkey, to come and establish presence here in Qatar, and this was amidst the crisis. So this really shows you how the stability of Qatar's economy, the resiliency of Qatar's economy, and how appealing it is for foreign investors to come and benefit from the opportunities, the multi-billion opportunities that exist in the local market today. In addition to this, we also work very closely with local stakeholders, both from the government and the private sector, to facilitate innovative startups looking to become operational in Qatar. And we have programs that are specific to these targeted industries. I know we don't have a lot of time, so I can't talk about them in a lot of detail, but I encourage those who are interested to learn more to check our website or to reach out directly. We will be happy to basically talk about them in more detail. But I think taking it back to the crisis, to what we're living in today, I think this crisis is actually serving as a catalyst for cutting-edge innovative solutions to enter the Qatari market. And this is true in particular for several of our focus clusters. For example, COVID will actually bring about new and different business opportunities in the sports industry specifically. And I will mention this because we recently launched the 3rd stadium for the World Cup, and we're all very excited to basically host the first World Cup in the Arab region, to happen in the first time in an Arab world, to come and benefit from these opportunities. And these include medical and sanitizing. And this takes us back to how COVID-19 has really changed the way we do business, and how companies need to rethink their strategies and basically build new sustainable strategies to keep up with market forces and geopolitical and global issues. Fan engagement is another industry that we're seeing a lot of interest or opportunities, esports, marketing, and media. I mean, the list can go on. And yes, of course, the digital sector as well plays a very important role. So
no, you said it all. You said it all. Crisis is an opportunity, and this COVID act as a catalyst. I mean, that's a very good interpretation. That's what exactly we have to look at it. See, this is inevitable. We have to embrace the change and move on. And your considered plan in terms of the vision of the country has synchronized with PFC plan, and I wish all the best. Let me move on to the next speaker. Thank you once again, Sheikh Al-Adoud Al-Thani. Wonderful, wonderful presentation and good explanation. Let me move on to a very important subject now. We have a distinguished speaker who is a differentiator in terms of the overall message he wants to give, because listen to banking or economics or finance now. What's happening in the world is on account of healthcare. The enduring values which they command to humanity is eternity. And the kind of front line they demonstrated world over, this community, healthcare community, has been astounding, and they pledge their personal life, and they are the true heroes of today and tomorrow. And I want to enlighten through our eminent speaker, Dr. Sheikh Mohammed bin Hamad Al-Thani, the Director, Supreme Council of Health. Over to you, Sheikh Dr. Mohammed.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. Dear Senator Rahman, thank you for this invitation. When you asked me to be invited, I was so glad to meet my brothers and sisters and colleagues that we share the same common thing, to be responsible, to care about Qatar community and keep it in a healthy situation, health and in economy. So I would like to share my presentation with you now, please.
The technology team is showing.
I was glad. I learned a lot today from this meeting, and I'm happy that we are in common direction, that we know that this is a crisis and we need to move forward. So as you can see in the presentation, since this challenge it become a health crisis, has never been like this in all the countries in the world. The first time, the poor and the rich, they don't know where to go. Every country is susceptible. You cannot run away with your money or your smartness. You can be vulnerable everywhere. At the same time, everyone was seeing the health crisis and the cases and the deaths, and everybody is worried about the economic crisis that's happening with it and after it. And we're hoping to assure that our calculation for cases that you can see here, 8 million cases now around the world, and with around 500,000 deaths coming, we are, even all these numbers, we are afraid that the economical problems will hurt more than the 8 million, and people will feel dead economically more than the 500,000 for sure. And this is the role that we are trying to mitigate in health, and we are hoping that economy will help us through your guidance, our colleagues, to keep Qatar healthy in this direction. So you can see here the cases that Americas have the highest number of the cases due to very high testing in America, accepting the testing in USA mainly, and Brazil and Peru, because Brazil didn't accept to get any precautions because they were worried, like Sweden and the UK, that this will hurt their system more if they close the system, and they were doubting if this number will be hurted, although they were hit, especially Brazil and then Peru after America hit strongly. We can see Europe has hit very strong as a small continent, and now they are trying to go out of it. But what hit Europe make all the world panic. You know, maybe the hit was coming to Europe, but the panic was around the world when they are watching these leaders of the world in economy have been hit strongly like this. We can see East Mediterranean and Southeast Asia, Western, we're very slowly to catch up. And we can see the Western Pacific, Africa, maybe they didn't have enough tests in Africa to test the people to confirm the cases. Maybe there's genetic factors. And the Western Pacific, because spread it, maybe cases are less because it's a new world somehow. We can see the Eastern Mediterranean is growing slowly. So example, what's happening in the world, and should we worry or not? We can see the Americas are still going slowly up, due that America is in a platform somehow, but Brazil and Peru still didn't rest, and the other countries in South America and Mexico. In Europe, they hit very strongly. You know, UK, France, Italy, Sweden, and Spain hit the strongest, and then Germany, but with less deaths. But now they are, hopefully, they are trying in recovery stage. The Eastern Mediterranean started slowly, but it's still building up with cases increasing, especially in Egypt and Saudi Arabia, that give Southeast Asia started very well, but then they have some spikes. So we can see here, as I mentioned, the leader states, United States, Brazil, and Russia, India are having the highest cases, and some of these countries accepted the cases because they couldn't understand how to lock down properly and how to handle the lockdown. So they accepted and they couldn't control it. So we can see here, USA have the highest, and we can see the platform is going for a long time. And we can see that even Brazil is still peaking up suddenly, because they seem like Sweden, up and down. And this one, Russia, although they have higher number of cases, but their deaths is remarkably very good compared to Brazil. Brazil couldn't handle the deaths like Russia. India now is growing, and we can see ironically that China, the country that started the disease, have the lowest maybe cases. Even Qatar can cross China, which is worrying us how much it was accurate, these numbers earlier. UK has been hit strongly and going down. The same thing for Spain. China, we can see the very special and strange peak they have. Sweden, they keep it open, and Sweden, the most country was hurted in all the Scandinavians and the Nordic countries because they keep it open. They should take some more precautions that they didn't take, I think. Singapore is going slowly down, Switzerland, and Hong Kong, Taiwan, although Taiwan controlled, but there's always clusters. And this worries us from a second wave like Taiwan. They controlled very well. All of a sudden they go up. So what about the GCC? Where are we now? You can see here Saudi Arabia is one of the strongest examples of the word second wave. They tried to control the country, slow down. When they saw a low number of cases, they suddenly opened totally, and the cases grew high. And compared to Iran, the difference between Saudi Arabia and Iran have more cases and it went down with less deaths. But yes, Saudi Arabia have higher cases with high deaths. So it's like a typical example of Saudi Arabia that we don't want it to happen anymore. UAE have many cases, but now they are going down. Let's see, Qatar, we didn't have a real peak in Qatar. We have like a strong hill because we bend the curve. Kuwait, they have high cases, they made curfew and the case going down. Bahrain is a very social country, the cases are still going high. And Oman, they have different cities and they increase their testing and they are still having tests. So the reason, not exact till now, settled down, but I think we're not the big country, it can be settled soon. So we can see a small comparison between the GCC. We see Bahrain, deaths has increased 57%. We can see that Saudi Arabia came back with 28% and Oman 36%. Qatar is 21% even. We have in 1 week 14 deaths, sorry for that, but we are still the lowest internationally, maybe around these cases. So here is the logic. The cases go with the same logic of the deaths, go with the same logic with the size of the countries of the GCC. And here we can see our cases, 82,000 and 80 deaths, 0.1 fertility of the cases, and most of our cases are recovering now with the new protocol that we did after 14 days. People are not infectious, and we are finding that another positive thing that not everybody is positive is infectious. There is around 10 to 20% people can be having CT and the test more than 33, so they are not infectious. To assure people not to be panicking everyone that they are highly infectious, but there are still super infectors that we are trying to protect the community from. These are our daily incidents. The daily incidence was very high with low recovery. When we changed the protocol at the end of May, the recovery became very high, and we are controlling now and focusing on our isolated cases strongly. So Qatar have mainly 5 hospitals that are dedicated for take care of our hospitals, plus the medical isolation of hospitals, and all the primary health care tests are ready to test anyone, but there's dedicated places like Garaf Al Rayyan, Amstal, Al-Ma'idar, and Rawdat Al-Khair. These are dedicated for this one. It's very, we are happy that we have one of the biggest ICU hospital in one place. It has been very, we have around 221 ICU cases in one place, dedicated to care about people in one place with very special doctors. We are proud that we give all this free, while other countries asking $1 million for some patients for their ICU. So alhamdulillah, this mercy that Qatar have always, and solidarity between people and the government, is helping us to keep growing without catastrophic health problems for Qatar. So everybody is waiting for us to speak about the R0. Here is when you can open a country and when you cannot is the lockdown. The R0, when it is less than 1, you can open the country, and now we are less than R01, so R01. So we are opening the country slowly, but we are trying to open slowly to learn from our colleagues and regions who open suddenly, and we are doing it in phases and monitoring. And we hope people help us in the awareness to keep the numbers. So our key is that we don't want any exponential anymore. We don't. We proved that we didn't do exponential before, but we don't want any case increase all of a sudden and hurt the community. So, and this is our hope in Qatar, is some part of the herd immunity. You have many cases, so we are looking for that. We are trying to have the spread of the disease when we have many cases in the community have the disease. Like now we have around 80,000, and if you make 8,000, we test 80,000. Like with some speculation, they say that maybe more than 1 million has been attacked in Qatar and they don't know about it. And this means that we are having around 40 to 50% in the coming 2 weeks. People have been attacked and have some immunity to protect the others. So we don't have any more big secondary cluster, except it can be, God forbid, happening in some criteria of jobs or some period of vulnerable people. We are trying to keep monitoring this through testing and testing, tracing, and isolating. So this is what we discussed about the flattening the curve. Since the start of this in Qatar, we were worried about the flattening of the curve. We can't handle everyone all of a sudden. We can handle everyone, but not if they come all together. So rather than we have a mountain, we try to make this green hill. So the cases, when they go down, logically you can see the picture, it will take longer time to finish the period. So Europe was very clear. They have a peak, a mountain peak. They were hit strongly, and now they are going down. In Qatar, we prefer to be more cautious, and we bend the curve through proper isolation, track and trace of the case that we did, and assure that isolate the case not to increase the disease all of a sudden in the community. And alhamdulillah, I think our numbers say that we bend the curve strongly, but of course, logically, it takes you more time to finish the curve. So what I would like to say here in my main conclusion, that this coronavirus pandemic is a global health crisis of our time. This happened one time every 100 years, and we need to be serious about it too. This can change economies of the world, and people should be strongly together to assure they pass this one. It's not only a health crisis, it's a human, economical, and social crisis. You know, in all amounts, we need to care about human, you know, some people not, you keep insecure for 20 years after this idea in their brain and their psychology. Economy will be more prudent and change more to digitalization, and it will hurt a lot of businesses. Social crisis, many people have been hurt between their families and how to handle things, and we need to work a lot in psychology to help them, support them. It was the greatest challenge since World War II, that all the world cannot turn away from this challenge, and they are still vulnerable for this one. So, and the pandemic is hurting all our plans for the SDGs 2030, and even we're hoping it will not affect our plans for 2022 strategies and World Cup, but we need to be keen to double our efforts in the coming month to cover what happened here with the support of the economy that you are leading. And we are hoping that we together to help the country, we need to work together to help all the countries, and research coming is very important investment. Although we see the conclusion, it's very tough for the world, but I'd like to mention, if somebody read about the influenza 1918-20, it was having a book called The Great Influenza. So this great influenza, when it happened, it hurt the world. It killed around 50 to 100 million, more than the World War I and World War II. But people realized the importance of health and research and vaccination, treatment. So the world worked hard for the coming 30 years, and they created many vaccinations, smallpox vaccination, and they have for the first antibiotic, Alexander Fleming, we have antibiotics. And you can see the baby boomers in 50s, the highest number of people born in the last century, because people think that if they will have 12 kids or 6, half of them will die in a war or from diseases, but it didn't happen. And we have the highest increase ever in the humanity of number of people. And we are hoping with this crisis, we have positive things. Example of the positive things that we had. Although we are very worried of this disease, but the older people are highest crisis. So let's see, God forbid, if this disease kill kids or hurt kids, how the families will do? The world will be in a very chaos. So alhamdulillah, it's happening only for older people or vulnerable that they know very well that they're vulnerable and they should take care of themselves, or their family members will take care about them and protect them from this, not the kids that they cannot protect themselves. Now, most of the world have more ICUs built to assure that the cases can be protected. Example for the people who can protect their country from deaths is mainly like Germany, Russia, Qatar, and although Iran, they built capacity that they have less deaths than ever before that they had because they built ICUs enough. And you can keep challenging, many of the Western countries don't have ICUs and they accept people die because they don't have ICUs. So, but most of the countries now are more prepared for this. It's a positive thing. The contact trace apps is massive surveillance tool. We have ihtiraz, many countries have something like ihtiraz. People having more testing samples to isolate cases early, to control any secondary wave in an early stage. Yesterday, we heard another proof of dexamethasone. We are giving it in Qatar an early stage that can lower from one third to one sixth to one third of the cases deaths. We have remdesivir that have been delivered last month, and favipiravir. All these are helping to lower the deaths. We have many vaccines in our work on 130 vaccine. 20 are very near to go in clinical trial. AstraZeneca is most advanced in the clinical trial, and they're looking forward to deliver it in September. But I think to make mass production, it will go to November. But at least the people have a big hope that things will be more prudent, and people will find more things to protect them. We need to work as we are working in health to mitigate this from a 50 million in 100 years to only 500,000 deaths. I will hope that the economy can protect us from another crisis like Black Monday in USA when it happened in 1929 and after 9 years of this crisis. And I hope that our economy is wise enough to catch up this challenge and come back with recovery very fast. For us, we try to invest a lot in our website, and we are asking people if you have questions, go to our website. You can call the 16,000 number that dedicated for this. Go to WHO, and we are ready to answer any question that you have in your mind. We believe it's very important that the economy in the coming 6 months or 1 year, they should work maybe harder than what we work in health, or at least equal if it's very difficult, to assure that we pass this one, because it's hurting every family and human in the country and the world. Thank you.
Thanks to the heroes of today who are making our lives safe and healthy. You answered all the questions except one question, which is people are talking about reopening across the globe now, and there are countries who have reopened with social distancing parameters. Now, do you expect a second wave? This is widely prevalent. Where do you see the possibility of a second wave?
Yeah, I believe there is a second wave. It will happen second wave because people, you cannot convince them to stay at home more than 90 days. People are, the economy is affected. So people, the governments cannot handle them properly. So they open the economy to give a chance to people to get their business. But I believe, as you can see how it is like a rainbow, the colors of the world in this challenge, from China, Taiwan, to America and Peru and Brazil and Germany and Italy, the same thing will happen in the second wave. You have in like Saudi Arabia, one of the worst second wave we monitored till now. Then you have Iran. We have another second wave happened before earlier in Singapore, and we are having Bahrain have another second wave after they thought they can have 0 cases, and they are still going high because they're a very social country. Because even if you look at the country, they are very social people. So you will find second wave in every country and different aspects, but I believe this second wave will be handled faster, and some of them, it will be not very high, and most of them will be handled faster, and I think with lower deaths than before. But not every country is doing the same decisions and precautions and the attitude of the people. But of course, the countries with tourism are the highest to be hurted in the world, and you can see Turkey accepted people without 14 days quarantine to keep the tourism in the summer. And the same thing, UK now is revising their quarantine for 14 days because it's affecting them strongly that for the quarantine for 14 days.
You said it all. You also mentioned that October, you will have the vaccine will be ready. 130 countries are working across. if everyone in this planet is administered, nearly 7 billion people we are talking about. Now, when we'll restore normalcy, that is COVID-free world, when do you think it's realistic in global terms?
Yes, we cannot have COVID-free world. You know, the COVID-free world is the cousin of the most problematic virus in the world, influenza. So influenza, we couldn't stop influenza from happening to the world, and it's killing people even more than COVID in the USA and many countries in the world, influenza. But this corona was very new, so the world was not prepared for it. So it can spread like, you know, the fire in the ash, and it can hurt everyone. But now with people having immunity and many people having a high attack rate, the world in a few months with vaccine and the people who have antibodies in their body, you will have few cases here and there, but not as big as before. But of course, now we need to vaccinate the vulnerable groups. So the world will keep investing in many ways to find something to vaccine the vulnerable groups. And maybe from this, we can, all the efforts happening now will push us to find even a vaccine for HIV, because all these efforts, I think, will help us to do like 2 other vaccines or 3 in the coming years, and the world will be having a bonus from these efforts together, inshallah.
That's a good summary. But before I say thank you, Dr. Sheikh Mohammed. It's a wonderful presentation, as I said. The final word from me to say, you know, we have listened to various eminent speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we draw a conclusion in multiple respects that Qatar's economic sustenance is given. If you look at the Vision 2030, there are 4 pillars. When it comes to human development, there are enough prerogatives certain. There's kind of very strong infrastructure in terms of healthcare or education. Qatar has demonstrated is a testament for us to believe, even during this transition, they have shown high level of commitment and performance. That's a great comfort for the entire population. In global term, it's a model. When it comes to economic sustenance, we have listened to various speakers. We have reassurance in terms of financial stability. We have enough liquidity in the system. Our reserves versus the overall growth momentum is very much visible. We have economic sustenance. When it comes to environment, Qatar's momentum in terms of building greener economy, sustainable development, and ensuring food security. Many of the speakers have pointed out how the blockade itself was an enabler as an opportunity. We have made sure that food security coming in, local products we are getting in terms of vegetables plus. So we have reason to believe the environment sustainability, energy efficient, environment friendly, LNG is spreading across the globe now. That's part of the renewable value chain. And the energy mix is changing at real order. So in environment sustainability, social sustainability, economic sustainability, human sustainable values are all converging in Qatar. So we have to thank the government and the vice governance of His Highness, the Emir of Qatar, and the rest of the team for this wonderful living they bestowed on the entire population living in Qatar. It's an extraordinary opportunity. Together, we will make sure this crisis is embraced and converted into an opportunity. I think we have 2022, as Sheikh Mohammed has mentioned, it's completely greener posture, sustainable value creation again. All the stadiums are almost completed. Social distancing is being thought through. We also have airport, we have seen. Airport has taken extraordinary measures now in terms of social distancing, ground handling, passenger handling. We have to believe this country has been wisely, setting up a model economy in substance, in terms of governance, true to its character. And I want to thank my colleagues here, to start with Mr. Abdulaziz Nasser Al Khalifa, the CEO of Qatar Development Bank. My colleague, again, Rashid Mansouri, CEO of Qatar Exchange. The Managing Director of Qatar Financial Center, Sheikh Al-Anud Al-Thani. Last but not the least, wonderful healthcare perspective was presented by Dr. Sheikh Mohammed bin Hamad Al Thani. What a wonderful combination of people. We are privileged to host this tonight. I'm sure we all have had intelligent inputs. We all learned so much in today's conversation for producing such an intellectual stimulant deliberations. I'm privileged to host this evening. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.
Thank you, Dr. Sitaraman. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you, our colleagues.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Bye. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.